Welcome to the eXtremeRate YouTube channel. In this video, we will show you how to swap the front faceplate on the DualSense EDGE controller. First, let's check out all the needed tools and replacement parts inside the box. After confirming we got all the components, let's start the process. First, we need to take apart the EDGE controller. Let's start with removing the back buttons. Then put the large to the side until the cover is released. Remove the cover and put it aside. Next, we need to remove the back panel. Use the prying tool to pry along the edge from the front to the back. Please be careful and not to hurt yourself when prying the panel. After the panel is unclipped, remove the panel and put it aside. There is the latch part with a tension spring at the bottom of the controller. Grab the plastic part and remove the spring. Next, let's remove the joystick modules. Raise the release lever and the module would slide out of the slot. Just remove and put them aside. Now pry the L1 and R1 buttons and remove them. Then remove the screws on the shoulder buttons. As we can see, there are 9 screws locking the back housing. Now we need to remove all these screws. After the screws are removed, separate and detach the controller housing from the middle. Since the back housing is still hooked to the controller, we can wiggle it to make it release from the controller. Unplug and remove the battery. Now use the tweezers to unhook the wires of the vibration module before removing the adaptive trigger. Gently clip the wires and pull them out of the hook. Then remove the 2 screws holding the adaptive trigger. After the screws are removed, carefully flip the trigger over, unplug the ribbon connecting the motherboard, and remove the adaptive trigger. Now do the same to the other side. Carefully pull the wires out of the hook with the tweezers. And then remove the 2 screws holding the adaptive trigger. After the screws are removed, carefully flip the trigger over, unplug the ribbon connecting the motherboard, and remove the adaptive trigger. Next, carefully disconnect the ribbon cables of the back button module and the microphone. Carefully remove the back microphone. Then disconnect the wires of the vibration module on the left and right. Then remove these 3 screws that secure the middle bracket. After the screws are removed, detach and remove the middle tray bracket. Next, let's move to the main board. First, disconnect the ribbon cable connecting the main board. Then remove the main board from the controller housing. Use the tweezers to remove the mute buttons. Then remove the 5 screws that secure the front panel. After the screws are removed, detach and remove the front assembly from the front plate. Be careful not to clip the ribbon cable. Then carefully remove 2 tiny springs beside the logo button. Remove the Create button and the Option button. Then remove the screws and release the right lever attached to the front panel. And remove the button pad, the action buttons, and the rubber on the right panel. Then remove the button support. Next, remove the screws and release the left lever attached to the front panel. And remove the rubber pad and direction buttons on the left panel. Next, let's move to the touchpad. Remove the 2 upper screws on the touchpad. After the screws are removed, use the spudger to pry the upper gap and the touchpad would pop out easily. Then carefully release the touchpad from the bracket and don't rip the ribbon. Disconnect the ribbon. Next, let's use the hot gun or hair dryer to heat the touchpad with a temperature of 60 to 80 Celsius degrees. Heat the touchpad for a while, like 1 to 2 minutes, to soften the adhesive on its back. Then pry the touchpad board to release it from the original plate. This may be sticky, just lift it up with some force to separate it. Since the touchpad is removed, then replace it with the touchpad plate in the kit. Install the PCB to the replacement touchpad plate. Please align and fit the board on the touchpad. We can press the board to better fit it to the touchpad plate. Then reconnect the ribbon cable. Then install the touchpad to the middle frame. Put the ribbon through the gap, and then attach the touchpad to the bracket. Then lock back the 2 screws on the touchpad assembly. Then let's replace the panel on both sides. First, install the button support on the right panel. Then attach the right panel plate to the middle plate. Align the clips and engage both parts together. Then install the lever part to the panel. Please check and make sure to get the right one. Lock the screw to secure the lever on the panel. Then let's install the left panel. Align the clips and engage both parts together. Then install the left lever on the panel and lock the screw. After the front panel plate is integrated, install the face buttons in the corresponding place. And install the button pad. Make sure it fits the buttons. Then install the D-pad buttons. And install the button pad and make sure it fits the button. Now align and install the mainboard frame to the front panel. Get the ribbon through the gap and fit the frame to the panel. Then lock the 3 screws to secure the frame to the controller. And lock the 2 upper screws on the touchpad bracket. Then install the mute button on the controller. Then install the main PCB board to the controller. Reconnect the touchpad ribbon. Reattach the microphone cable. And check from the top to the bottom to see if all the parts line up together. Next, let's install the joystick module to the controller. Lock the two screws to secure the joystick module. Reconnect the wire of the vibration module on both sides. And reattach both joystick ribbon cables and install the microphone. Then let's install the trigger modules on the controller. First, install the left trigger. Reconnect the trigger ribbon to the main board. And then fit the trigger right into the place. Then lock back the screws on the trigger module to secure it onto the controller. After the left trigger is installed, let's install the trigger on the right side. Reconnect the trigger ribbon to the main board. And then fit the trigger right into the place. Then lock back the screws on the trigger module to secure it onto the controller. Next, let's organize the cables and put them in place. Next, let's reconnect the battery cable. And install the battery onto the controller. Then let's move to the back housing part. Install the back shell on the controller. Fit the shell and press to make sure both parts are engaged. Then lock all the screws on the back housing. After all the screws of the back housing are secured, we need to install the latch part to the controller. First, hook one end of the tension spring to the latch bar. Then hook the other end of the spring to the controller, and install the whole part to the controller. Slide and check if the latch part works. Now install the lower cover to the controller. Align and click in to fit the cover to the controller. Press all the parts of the panel and make sure it is well clipped. Then install the joysticks to the controller and lock the levers. Then put back the front cover. And lock the screws on the shoulder buttons. Then put back both shoulder buttons. And in the last, let's put back the back buttons to finish the installation. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoy the modding journey with eXtremeRate.